All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Refinery. It is Tuesday, May 26, 2015. We are, as I said before, the Refinery, a weekly discussion about solving conservative messaging problems. I am not Leslie Price from the Conservative Union. Leslie, we don't really know where she is. She's out doing, Leslie stuff. I'm sure we'll get a search party out for her and bring her back, and hopefully what, the sound effects will be on her next week, so she's being docked for this absence. With me tonight is Ryan Bickmore from the Conservative Union. From Free Radical Network, there's me, JD Bryden, and Fishy Felicia Cravens, something fishy on Twitter. From the Party of Choice, we've got Corey and Andy, and we are live Tuesday nights at 8:45. We're live Tuesday nights 9:45 Eastern on therefineryshow.com. Go there anytime to watch, listen, and subscribe to the show via YouTube or podcast. It's good to start the show in a relevant time zone for a change. Tonight there are a few important stories that we want to discuss, but the first one that we want to get into tonight is one that's really annoying. It was something that just when I read it, when Fishy shared it to her Facebook page the other night, I was floored because, with the way that stuff has been happening in the LGBT acceptance sort of situation. We had the fight in Indiana over their Religious Freedom Act and the uproar over Memories Pizza and everything. And it's just annoying and obnoxious, and so much that we're shooting ourselves in the foot, and the LGBT community is being really mean to these pizza places. There are people getting death threats everywhere. It's just a mess. We were okay for a little bit there, but now there's a new twist in the LGBT acceptance situation, and it's up in Canada. Fishy, I'm going to throw this to you since you came up with the story. It's
Well, okay, so Toronto, I believe, is where this takes place, and the story begins with a lesbian couple that goes into a jeweler. They've looked all over for some rings for their wedding ceremony, and they haven't been able to find what they want, and so they've been recommended to go to this jeweler. They approach the jeweler, they work with the jeweler on design. They order some custom rings. They were very pleased with their service and with the way that the jewelry store had handled everything for them. They raved about this store to their friends, and then some friends that they had recommended noticed that the business had put up a sign indoors in support of traditional marriage. And reporting this back to the lesbian couple who had not yet picked up their rings, the couple was traumatized, and they felt the rings were tainted and demanded a refund. At no time during the transaction did the subject ever come up of his personal views on gay marriage. He was perfectly willing and very happy to make these rings, but because of his viewpoint, they are maintaining that these rings are tainted and they want refunds.
And when they put that out there, that this was what happened, that this that this was the case, that they shared it through social media that this was happening, and there was pressure that was applied to the jeweler. The jeweler was getting death threats, was getting all kinds of really, really nasty things happening to him through social media, through his personal email. And this is over a viewpoint that he holds. And what have we been talking about this whole time has been just bake the damn cake. Just make the, we know it's against your religion. You're not actually supporting the act of gay marriage, whatever. Just just bake them the cake or whatever. We have people who say that, and it sounds, I mean, to me, it sounds tiny bit reasonable. I mean, if I was the baker, I would want to do it just because it's money. I don't really care what they're using the cake for. It doesn't affect me personally, in my opinion. But that's not good enough in this situation. Now you have to agree with the couple in order to be a successful business person. I mean, I don't understand this. He eventually succumbed to the pressure and gave them the refund, by the way, and was very nice about it. Sorry, Fish, I didn't want to step over you there.
Am I coming through audible?
You're coming through audible now.
Okay, my screen is not helping with this. The thing that came up in discussion on the thread where I started it in Google Plus was that there are consumer protection laws in Canada that are a little more strict than the way they are in the United States, and that you don't have to tell a store the reason you want a refund. You are not allowed, according to the law, you're not allowed a refund for just anything. I mean, defective merchandise is one thing, but if you damage the merchandise, that's another. But I looked through the laws, and I couldn't find anything on custom work to be done. There's a time period of a certain amount of time, cooling off period if you sign a contract that you can rescind the contract. They might have fallen in that period. But again, none of the legislation that I saw, and I looked hard, addressed the idea of custom work, which is a little bit different from just having, picked up an item in a store or ordered something. There's time and effort and money invested in that. And the person I was talking to was saying that it wasn't under the discrimination laws or anything to do with that this fell under consumer protection, and that because you don't have to give a reason for your refund that you're demanding as a customer, that this was perfectly fine. I think it warrants a deeper look, but if that's the case, you're really pretty much making people indentured servants until you finalize your contract and get your payment and pass all the requisite waiting periods.
That sounds ridiculous coming from an American perspective. I mean, to me, it just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like how business is done. I want to just highlight real quick a comment. PD Prairie Dog SD said in the chat, "My taxes are tainted and I want a refund." I wish it worked like that, but it doesn't work like that with government, and they kind of hold a monopoly. So if we disagree with them and we want better service, we have to look elsewhere, I guess. I don't know.
But JD, I've actually heard, and I know it's after the fact that I paid my taxes, but I actually heard some people in government are liberal and don't hold my views. I'm very offended.
What?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That can't be right.
I'm going to return all the services I've gotten from them. That shouldn't take long.
The roads, Andy. You can't return all those miles that you spent driving on those roads.
Have you seen the roads leaving?
Yeah.
It is pothole city out here.
All my roads are underwater. I'm just saying.
Well, when you say pothole, what do you?
I know, it's Colorado.
Yes, there's two different types of potholes. There's the potholes, which are storefronts, and then there are the potholes, which are in the roads, which are tearing up our cars.
Although out here, you can actually use some of those to smoke weed now. It's really incredible.
Wow.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question?
Oh, go ahead.
When do Christians use weddings as weapons? Because I guess I've been missing that. I got to look more closely. I mean...
Well, that's a great point. And here's the other thing I wanted to bring to this. As this story is told, the way that it was presented in article after article, there is no way that this couple or the people that did the harassment of the jeweler come out looking good. This does not play with the middle. Again, this is another example of overreach that we can use to push back against these things.
No, Andy just said something that stuck out to me, and I've always kind of thought of weddings and marriage as a religious institution. It was in the beginning, and then the state had to regulate it, so they decided to step in so that blacks and whites couldn't get married, among other things. And what Andy just said reminded me that, like, I don't understand, and maybe JD, you can. Oh, JD's gone. I was gonna say maybe he could set me straight on this, but if you're not religious,
I'm here, Ryan. I'm here.
Oh, okay. You're the conservative union. Got it. If you're not religious and you don't think marriage is ordained of God, then it's not sacred to you. It's not special to you. Why do you need marriage? Like, why don't you just live together? Why don't you just say you're together? Like, what is so special about it? And I understand the tax thing that Fishy's saying, and sadly that I'm totally fine with taxing everyone the exact same. I have no problem with that. But because it's not the sacred institution to these people that it is to religious people, they're using it, like Andy said, they're using it as a weapon just to get what they want and to push an agenda. Am I wrong there? What am I missing?
I don't know that I would say that people who are in support of gay marriage necessarily think that it's not a sacred institution. I think that they're saying they want a part of that. They want to call it the same. They want to treat it the same, not just for tax purposes, but for all kinds of purposes, legitimacy of all sorts of things. And that's the key. It's the legitimacy angle that they've been going for, not just the equal treatment, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think that you're right. I think it's not correct to say that they don't think that this is a sacred institution. I also don't think that's fair to say that an atheist couple or somebody who doesn't believe in God. I don't think it's fair to say that they wouldn't consider marriage to be a sacred institution. I think that there's there are clear bonds there that I think get to I think it's something that can be considered a really special and unique thing. I think it's not something that necessarily is not regarded as sacred between religious people.
I think atheists only get married to rub my nose in it. Okay?
Clearly.
I'm calling you out. I'm calling all of you out.
That's the thing, though. It's about not just being able to do the same things. It's about making people look at you the same way. It's clamoring for endorsement, and that's a whole different thing from acceptance.
But Fishy, doesn't this trouble you a little? Well, I agree. It's not like gay people just want to get married to as a weapon. But however, it's kind of like this. And no, I'm not equating homosexuality to Islam. I'm just talking about the using something as a weapon thing, okay? Muslims, they're not all killing people. But the vast, 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 vast majority of killing done in the name of religion is being done by Muslims. Gay people, they're not getting married to offend people or whatever. However, they're the only ones using weddings as weapons. Christians aren't. Mormons aren't. Nobody is. And so while they're not, and so I think it's safe to ask, how come that practice is only coming from your ranks? And would you guys mind closing ranks, talking to one another, and stopping it? Because it's really pretty ugly.
That's something else I want to touch on here in this situation. And it came to me the night Fishy and I were discussing this. What if the situation was reversed? Tell me that. What if this was a religious couple? What if this was a Christian couple who wanted to get a ring made, a couple of rings made, and they went to a jeweler, and the jeweler was very nice. They had the same exact situation happen. They recommended the jeweler to a friend of theirs, and their friends went in only to see a gay marriage equality sign. and that was offensive to them, and they called up their friends who had already purchased their rings and said, "Hey, these guys that you recommended to us are pro-gay marriage." Would there ever in a billion years be would it be considered reasonable by the press, by the public in general, if the people were to go into that store and demand a refund because they don't want their wedding rings tainted by gay hands? If they were to say something like that, by somebody who supports gay marriage, is that something that would ever fly?
No. Period. No. And hence the double standard. It's enormous. And it has to be pointed out, and I don't think we do a good job of that a lot of the times.
We don't.
Again, I got to bring up that under the laws of Toronto, it seems that for any reason you can get a refund. Again, my problem with this is we're talking custom work. Someone's invested some time and energy and resources already in the product, and then they're being told that they have to refund the money and lose the time, money, and resources on the work. That's my problem with this. If they're treating this as a consumer protection issue, when what it is it's a license to breach contracts because of feels, then we need to find a good way to explain it that way.
Well, yeah, my question would be, with this law, does it extend to services provided? Can you get your money back for any reason for services? Because what he did was a service. I guess I could understand maybe returning the ring. There's a monetary value in the gold. But as far as the time that he spent designing it and making it, that hardly seems fair, no matter which side of the aisle you're on this issue.
And again, fairness is where we push on this, I think.
Yeah, it's something that hopefully, we talk about the left overstepping their bounds, and it does really, I mean, to me, just reading the story and getting, we're not scholars on Canadian law. If we had some more of those people here that could comment on the finer points of that law, it would be nice to hear exactly what they have to say. But it really just doesn't seem fair. It does not seem fair in any stretch of the imagination for this to happen, especially for the reasons provided. It just as you said, giving them a free license, giving a person a free license to renege on their deals, that just doesn't seem right. It's not something that.
And look at the potential to destroy a business by doing that enough times. A concerted effort, and don't tell me that leftists don't do this, a concerted effort to undermine the business in that way, whether it's this ring maker or someone who's catering, and has to order food and all of this stuff, or whatever business it is, you could drive someone into bankruptcy just doing this tactic.
A little bit. Fishy, can you speak again, please?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah, you could drive someone into bankruptcy using this tactic, and nobody can convince me that the left wouldn't think about something like that.
No, it does not seem like it would be beyond them to come up with that kind of a strategy to hit them. And any business, it would not be safe to express your opinion. That's another thing that the guy said in the article. The person, the jeweler, was an immigrant from Mexico, I believe, and he said that one of the reasons that he came to Canada was because he thought that he had the right to express his opinion there. He thought that he had the right to free speech, and that if he's being punished for expressing, I don't know, his views, and it seems like the system is doing that to him. I don't know. It's not the sort of free market. All right, I won't go to this guy when he expresses his opinion. It just to do this in hindsight, and to see it after the fact and just be able to go back on it like that just doesn't seem right. Let's move on to the next article, or to the next story here, and we actually have Ryan. Ryan wrote something, his second ever article for us on Free Radical Network, and it is an excellent piece. Ryan, let's hear about your new ideas on welfare.
Okay. there was an article shared to the Conservative Union Google Plus community this week, and it talked about welfare reform in Singapore and how they were doing it so differently from what has been tried and not worked in America and Europe. And yeah, we had talked last week on the refinery that we need to do a better job at looking at articles and saying, okay, how do we message this? And so I started thinking about that. Okay, how can I message this? How can I talk about this to someone? And I was thinking about how often conservatives make stupid mistakes and say, it seems like anytime there's a debate or a discussion on welfare reform, the conservative falls into the same trap, and they end up saying something like, well, if all the dumb, lazy people would just get off their butts and go to work. It always comes down to something stupid like that. And that it might be true in some cases, but the majority of them it's not true. And even if it was true in all the cases, it's a horrible messaging, and it's never going to be a winning argument. So yeah, I thought we could take the Singapore model and we can talk to some people. Let me find it. That we could talk to some people and message it in a lot better way. So what I was saying is we can talk to the person and say, I was thinking the other day, and I think you're right. I was thinking about the poor people and what we can do to help them. And at this point, you're kind of disarming them. They're saying that you don't care about the poor, and you're showing, what, I do. This hasn't been working, so let's think about what we can do to help them better. I was thinking about that, and I was looking for articles, and I read about Singapore the other day, and here's some things that they're trying. So you do that, you're showing that you're actually thinking about it, you're trying to find solutions, you're trying to think out of the box. Then you bring up the example and some things that Singapore's done. The article starts out by saying they have capitalism, they're the second freest market in the world, and that's why they've gone from $500 a day or a year per capita to $52,000 per year per capita, and they have the highest rate of home ownership in the world at, I think, over 95%. So, I mean, that's a huge part of it. And then the second part is that they've done what they kind of call a forced savings, and they take a percentage from each person's paycheck, like we do with Social Security and now Obamacare, and then they take a portion also from the employer to pay for the person, like we do again with Social Security and Obamacare. But instead of paying into those wasteful programs, they give you the option to kind of put it into 4 different accounts. There's a health savings account, there's a schooling, there's a retirement, and there's a home account. And so the money gets put into these accounts that can only be used for those purposes. And then just kind of talk to them. Now, obviously, this is showing that you want to talk to them, not debate them, not say their model's bad or anything. Just, what do you think about this? Is this something we could work on? Is this something we could come together on? And, the parts I don't like are definitely about the government forcing you to save things. That's not really a good plan, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's a lot better than where we are now, in that the government takes it for Social Security, you never see it again. It's just gone. This way, you get to decide where you want to spend it, whether it's housing or schooling or whatever. So it's a step towards freedom, and as people become more self-reliant and they can take care of themselves and their families, then we're going to need a lot less welfare, and hopefully at that point people will realize they can kind of do it on their own. They'll realize how good it is. We can start dialing it back, which I don't know of a government program that's ever been dialed back, but hopefully we could do it. So, I mean, those are kind of my thoughts. What do you guys think about that way to message, to kind of disarm people, agree with them, try to come to a common solution to kind of gain a friend? And what do you think of the Singapore model? How well would that work in America?
Well, I really loved that article. I thought it was a fantastic answer to help with these issues. And I really wish that I could save my own money for retirement and have it in my own account and invest it how I see fit instead of paying into this huge pool where it's mismanaged and spent. And I think that for people our generation and younger, Social Security is always a great thing to talk about because I don't know anybody in their 30s and younger who believe they're actually going to see a penny of their own Social Security. Everybody
It's
that
not
I know,
happening.
it's not.
It's never happening. I've already resigned myself to that.
Anybody who's even, Democrat, liberal, whatever, they all say the same thing, don't they? Yeah, I'm never going to see any of that, don't they? And so what I love to say as well, because I think, what is it? I want to say Switzerland. I think they have a similar program where you're required by law to save a percentage of your annual income to put into retirement. But you get to control those dollars. And it's working really, really well because you're going to take a special interest in whatever you can control because you want it to grow, you want it to build because it's in your own best interest versus turning it over to a bunch of bureaucrats who don't know you and it's just money and it's being spent however they see fit.
Yeah, that's never good. That's never a good sign. Never a good thing to have happen. I'm kind of I'm of two minds on this. I would like to try something new, but my problem is that whenever and it's the same sort of problem that I have with the idea of the flat tax, is it's a great idea, but I have a hard time seeing it as something that we could actually implement as a whole. If we could replace the current tax system with the flat tax, I'd be all over it, and that would be great. But I'm always wary that there's going to be that, okay, we're going to have the flat tax, and we're going to lower income taxes just a little, and then do all sorts of crazy double taxation stuff there. I'm afraid that if we were to try and do something like this, it would be additive. It would not be replacing the current system. That's my only real concern with trying to do one of these programs. But it certainly does open the conversation up. At least you have an idea and you're expressing it, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, and I think if you get people thinking about what they could do with their money for their own future, then it makes the Republican side of things, when those politicians like Paul Ryan get up and start talking about reforming entitlements, it makes it not seem so crazy after all.
It's so much more effective to try to work with people. And the reason I like this is because you're saying, I agree with you, we have problems right now, it's not working. Andy always says that. You agree with someone, it throws them off their attack, it throws them off guard. Yeah, and then you're going in and saying, I've been thinking about it, let me tell you my ideas, or let me tell you what I've seen that's worked, and why don't we talk about it? Why don't you maybe give me your ideas? How can we improve upon this? Could this work? And then you're kind of making them a friend, making them help you, kind of working together, building a relationship of trust a little bit. And I think for the future, for other discussions, they're going to think, oh, he's a rational person. I can actually talk to him without fighting. And they're going to come to you more, and you're going to kind of reach across the aisle both ways. And also, hopefully, it'll open them up to looking at other things, saying, wow, this actually has worked really well. Maybe we could be more like them. And maybe over time it'll help in other things, or just help get them to think for themselves instead of just repeating the party lines.
Absolutely. I want to go to the chat and bring up Prairie Dog SD. He said, no, you must build in the right to opt out, or it's a no-go for me. It's something that's going to be involved in the implementation side of things, and I don't really think that this is so much about implementation as it is about starting the conversation. I think that's an important differentiator to sort of point out there. This is more about starting a conversation than it is about solving the problem, I think, because it's going to be very difficult.
In a response to that, I have kind of the same problem, and I was thinking we could do it through private companies. You have your 401k or your IRA, and you choose where you put that percentage of your paycheck, and your employer a lot of the time will match that percentage of your paycheck. So why is that? Why couldn't we do the same thing here? You have a health savings account. I get to choose how much comes out of my paycheck for that, and it's a private insurance company. So could we use private insurance? Could we use private accounts, private mutual funds, things like that that are set aside just for this purpose, that are tax-free if you use it for this purpose, or whatever we need to do, that the government is not necessarily forcing you. Maybe they're forcing you to save some, but you get to choose how you save it, where you save it, what company you go with, what mutual fund you go with. Yeah, is that good enough for people like Prairie Dog who want that freedom? 'Cause
Here's the thing. At this stage, because no matter what we propose, it's going to be torn down by leftists and whatever, we know that the danger inherent in proposing plans, is that they're going to get picked apart and shot down, and it's easier to be the person picking apart and shooting down than it is trying to build an alternative. But what is happening policy-wise is different from what you're talking about in terms of one-on-one conversations. It's like a decoy method. It's like getting people off the idea of just shooting down anything and bringing them into the conversation and asking, what do you think we could do? What do you think about this? How do you think this could work? How could this be improved? So it's not so much that any of us are advocating for the solution that Singapore has, although we're fascinated with the results. It's how do we use examples like Singapore to take the conversation out of the realm of just shooting down everything that a conservative proposes and have people start looking at things more critically, more thoroughly, more, using more imagination in solutions instead of defaulting to what does not in fact work because we've proven it doesn't. And I want to make that really clear that what Ryan is talking about is, here's one solution that you can use to talk to people about changing the system, not necessarily advocating for that system, but bringing it up as a decoy.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's a really important thing, and something that the left is very good at. The left is extremely good at using this sort of I don't know, outrageous example to sort of bring back. It's not exactly the Overton window effect, but it's in that same kind of area. It's preparing the ground for future pushes into that area. And that's something that I think we don't do enough of. We don't do enough of preparing the ground for our future endeavors.
And Ryan's real critical point at the very beginning of his article is that so often we just start talking about lazy people, people who won't work. We don't go into other solutions, other ideas, other ways to help people. A lot of people do want to work, but the financial incentives are for them not to. That's a systematic problem. That's not necessarily just an individual choice problem. If you're making rational financial decisions and welfare pay is better than work, you're making the rational decision regardless of how you feel about yourself and your self-worth and your pride and everything. It is going to lead a lot of people into choosing the welfare option. This is a way to get people off of that topic, off of those insults, out of that conversation that makes it look like we don't care, because we do have to address the fact that the reputation conservatives, Republicans get is that we don't care about the poor. And this is a perfect way to get that started and to divert from that conversation of conservatives just don't care about the poor.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I was actually just about to say that. Even if you don't believe in it, even if you don't think it's a good solution, at least you avoided the trap of calling people lazy and saying that they just need to work and looking like you're heartless and you don't care about the poor and enforcing the stereotypes about rich Republicans. So that's good enough for me.
I kind of like, I approach it in two ways. First of all, when just talking about, welfare and these things, I say, look, I want you to have the money too. Yeah, you have to have the money to get by. The only difference is I don't want you to need me and my party to get it for you. I want others to need you. I want them to need you every day at a job, at a place where if you don't show up, they don't get the job done, or at a place where they're looking forward to seeing you. And I want to talk up how great it is to have a job and to be and have your regulars and have people see you, and it's like Cheers and everybody knows your name. It's wonderful, and you get the money and you are knee dead, rather than being in the lifelong position of needing others, because you're better than that. I know you are, and I want that for you. Okay? And in the case of things like Singapore, I love it. I love recommending these things, but I guess I just want to ask people, don't you want control of the money? See, the problem is with all our programs, you pay your taxes in, and then you're begging for this, begging for that. Well, I'm on Medicare, and this many doctors don't accept it, and these don't provide those services. Let me tell you something. Everybody accepts cash. Everybody accepts money. So what if you are in charge of the money with your medical savings account, with your retirement savings account, with your any savings account? Now you're in charge of how it's spent, and everybody accepts it, and nobody says no. And you're not begging for anything. You already have it. See, that's the thing I want for you. I want you to be needed, and I want you to be in control, because I think you deserve that.
Absolutely. And on that note of being responsible and being in control, and also on the whole concept of sort of government-forced charity, there's another story in the same vein that we want to get to from. We did Canada earlier in the show. Now we're going to France. It's not a good day for our extra national stories on the show via Paul Collier, and I'm going to send this over to Fishy again because she found the story.
Well, okay, so Paul Collier, friend of the show, and our friend on Facebook, Paul posted an image, and this image was of a grocery store, and I'm attempting to find it so that I can represent it properly. It's dealing with this new policy in France, this new law that says that grocery stores that have a footprint larger than a certain amount have to find a way to donate their unused food or their food that is about to spoil, or use it for composting for animals, give it to the homeless, some kind of program that's going to be mandated so that they have to do this now. And when I shared it, I looked at the way that it was sold, the image that went with it, and the wording behind it made me really feel squoogey about the whole thing just for a start. And this was shared by someone who thought that this was a great idea, that forcing these supermarkets to stop wasting food and repurpose it to something more useful, this was seen as a good thing. Because of course you want to feed hungry people, because of course it's sad that you have so much wasted food on one hand, but you have so many hungry people on the other, right? I mean, this is the tug at your heartstrings kind of thing. But what bothered me is that I knew that a lot of people would knee-jerk react positively to that without thinking through the entire issue. And so, in finding this image,
I think I have it up. I'm not
okay.
Sure. Is it up? Can everybody see that?
France has made it illegal for supermarkets to destroy edible food in an effort to cut waste. Under new laws, chains will be forced to donate discarded food to charity or allow it to be turned into animal feed, compost, or energy. Thank you. Thank you for pulling that up because I just now found it. And when I was sharing it, Paul had made the point in my share of this long conversation with people who were saying, oh, that's a great idea. It's wonderful. Isn't that super lovely? All the waste that's happening now will stop happening. Paul made the point that the logical consequences of this action are not going to be helpful to the poor and to the needy. Because rather than merely incur the cost of purchasing the food initially, and we're talking things like bread, things like fruit, things like milk, that do spoil quickly, instead of just writing off the cost of those, then what you have is stores that will stop ordering enough to where they will need to throw some out. The quality of food will go down because they will have less of it. The shortages will appear in things like bread and milk and vegetables because the store's not going to want to carry the cost. And then whatever they do in order to donate that's mandated is going to require an additional cost, so that the company's going to make a judgment saying, well, we'll throw out less, so we'll just run out of things instead of have excess to throw out and donate. Companies will adjust to this based on a cost basis, a cost analysis that they're doing when these things happen. And so actually this great sounding idea of forcing a company to donate money to, donate spoiled food or almost spoiled food will turn into no net gain for the poor, no net gain for people who are needy, and fewer items on the shelves for everybody else. And it will not accomplish a thing that it's intended to accomplish. And above all that, it's force. It's just force. You could gently encourage these supermarkets to do that. You could reward them with promotion or grants or some kind of positive PR for that. You could have a label that says this store is a store that cares about the poor, and this is what we do. But force is another matter entirely. And I was shocked at the number of people. No, I wasn't shocked. I'm going to say it. I wasn't shocked at the number of people who were defending this policy.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak for a second just in case people weren't able to see the image while I wasn't speaking, because I'm not the usual producer of the show, and I think I don't know how the cameraman thing works, so I can make sure that my image is up there while other people are speaking. So hopefully it was up there, but on the off chance that it wasn't, here's the image that Fishy was talking about. And now that that's done, I'm going to take it down and let everybody else talk.
I actually see you behind the oranges.
I was hiding. I was trying my best to hide, but you found me like Waldo. Did you know that outside of America, Waldo is called Wally? You would think it would be the opposite, but no. Sorry, that was a random fact that nobody needed.
You know, it's good to have those random facts of trivia for the next time we play Trivial Pursuit. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure our messaging-based audience is really thrilled with the Where's Waldo trivia.
Anyway, I just had a couple of thoughts on this when I saw the story pop up in one of your news feeds, and my first thought was, I don't know what the laws are like in France, but here in America, if you were to donate food that was on the brink of being spoiled and somebody, God forbid, got sick, you're going to have massive lawsuits on your hands constantly. There is nothing to stop the business from being sued. And secondly, through work, I'm a part of an organization where we have bi-monthly meetings at a restaurant. And so we have a speaker come in and they teach us something while we eat our lunch. And we always have a lot of leftovers because the restaurant serves the food family style. And it's really kind of cool because the restaurant will actually package up all the leftovers and refrigerate them for a charity that comes by to pick them up. And then they serve the leftovers for the population that's served by this women and children's shelter. You would not believe how hard it was for us to find a charity that would accept the leftovers. For two reasons. First of all, there was the fear of food poisoning, but secondly, there might not be enough for everybody who wants some.
Gotta suffer equally.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That makes perfect sense that we should do that. It's so insane that and again this goes back to the discussions that we were having before. about just how easily accepted the left's premises are, how easily accepted this sort of stuff is. Because it sounds great, it sounds awesome, it sounds like sunshine and butterflies, but people don't think about the unintended consequences. People don't think about what happens. Last week we were talking about the minimum wage. People don't think about what happens when your comic book shop that you love in San Francisco has to close because they can't pay their employees. I mean,
I'm just going to put it out here that I don't know what kind of generous natures they have in France, and I'm perfectly willing to blame this on stingy French people. But what I know about my markets here, when I go grocery shopping, almost every single one has a place where you can buy food and donate extra to uh, to the poor. They have programs in place that take care of that, and I know those things because working in things like school carnivals, when you wanted to get a bulk discount on an item, and you would ask, do you have anything that you're about to throw out that I can pick up on Tuesday for an event on Thursday that'll still be good? They will tell you, I'm sorry, everything is spoken for. We have a regular place that we distribute these excess foods to before they go bad. We pull them from the shelf 3 days early, and then we donate them to this group or that group or the other group. It is a staple of life here where I am. And so, I mean, if the French are that greedy and wasteful, I have to say something else. Again, blame the French because it's fun. But honestly, you see a movement to prevent in that homeless people from getting into dumpsters and creating messes that attract pests and rodents and whatever, and that it also might be something like a cleanliness issue, an issue to deal with, making sure that refuse stays in the refuse bin so that it's not strewn about, so that there aren't vermin and things trying to get into it. I don't know. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, some, but that could be. There's no other reason to pour bleach on food that you throw in a dumpster, except that you don't want it to be consumed. And I'm really quite surprised that there haven't been lawsuits from ambulance chasing lawyers hauling homeless people into the courtroom to sue businesses who throw out food.
Yeah, and then another thought that just came to mind is how much government bureaucracy are you going to need to oversee that the food is getting donated to the proper charities and that it's being handled correctly? I mean, remember just a few weeks ago we had that story we discussed about the church that wanted to put the refrigerator outside? And remember the litany of laws and regulations that they had to fulfill in order to do that in a way that the local governing authority found appropriate? Oh my gosh, could you imagine doing that for a whole entire country? I mean, I know France is small, but even so, how many grocery stores are there? How many food stores in general are there? And all of those would have to be overseen.
everything.
And it's going to cost. Somebody's going to have to administer that. So I want people really, when you think about something that sounds on the surface really good, and it sounds like something you want to jump into, whether it's a story about somebody being treated heinously by authorities, or whether it's a new law that's passed that you're whatever you're getting riled up about, this is a good lesson to think through another step and think through those consequences. So often we just jump on a train of something because it sounds good and we don't have a lot of time to look into stuff. But I can count at least 3 stories this week that I did not share because I felt that they warranted more study before putting it out there. And darned if 2 of them didn't turn out to have something that was unexplained or unmentioned in the original article that I saw. It's very, very important. I'm learning that habit of holding my fire until I've looked into something and thinking through all the way as far as I can before jumping on a position.
It's like a landmine. You don't want to step on a bad story and realize that, oh, you fell into a leftist trap, and they do that. They scatter mines all over the place, and we step on them a lot. It doesn't wind up pretty. Um, I think we should move on to the next story, and since Fishy has handled so many so far, I'm going to jump into this one real quick. Um, this one it kind of fits into the theme for today. We're going to get into the cultural part of it, and I know that this article is one that Fishy loves because in the first two paragraphs you get to see the word zeitgeist there. So I know how much Fishy is a fan of zeitgeist. Um, this article from Quinn Hillier in National Review, uh, at sea in an alien culture where normal is defined as deviant, is a really depressing read. I'm not going to lie. It was something that was a hard slog to read, and something that I'm not really sure how much I agree with. But it talks a little bit about what we were talking about in the first story about stuff that is pretty unremarkable being treated as a major social sin or even illegality, just like in the case of the jeweler who had to give back refund the money because of whatever obscure Canadian legal loophole that they were talking about, but mostly because holy crap, when you are going to get assaulted by verbally abused by so many people over having an opinion on traditional marriage, what are you going to do? Yet when other actions strike us as jaw-droppingly outrageous or corrupt, the larger culture shrugs without concern, and we'll talk about that in a second. As it concerns the Clinton Foundation, yet another thing. At this point, every news story that comes out about the Clinton Foundation is one that makes you scratch your head and wonder why why Hillary and Bill aren't in jail. And that's basically what the article is about. That you have a culture that people feel adrift in. People don't realize what they don't understand how it is that we could be in this kind of spot that we're in regarding the culture with issues like LGBT rights versus free speech versus freedom of religion, all of this stuff. And it's just a really depressing piece. And I know, Fishy, you were disappointed for it being written.
Okay, let me put it this way. I feel just about everything Quinn Hillier talks about in this article. I look at the political situation, the landscape, and the politics, and the things that we should be irate as a nation about, which is sort of meh. The fact that Benghazi didn't get the traction that it should have, that it didn't end Obama's presidency, for one, and Hillary Clinton's chances of becoming president later. Those things, I get that. I get the frustration. And people like me who've been fighting in this fight for a long time look around at this country and we don't recognize what this place is anymore. Because everything that we feel, everything that we believe is important and right is everything that the left mocks, that popular culture trashes, that people ignore. In the rush to worship Kim Kardashian and Kanye and people like that, no one is paying the kind of attention to serious issues that we pay. And it leaves us feeling alone and frustrated and worried about the future of this country because we don't recognize this place. That is the message that Quinn Hillier is talking about. And I get it. I don't think there's a person on this show or in our audience who doesn't have similar feelings about that. But what she doesn't do is offer anything in the way of hope. It is merely looking around and sighing and being depressed about the nation's prospects. It's sort of fatalistically standing on the highest deck you can get on the Titanic and just hoping to go under last. That's what it feels like to me. And so often pieces that I read that don't have a destination, that don't have a battle plan, that don't have solutions or suggestions on how to deal with things, just send me into that tailspin and I can't function anymore. It's crippling. We've talked about how the outrage machine does that. Well, the depression machine does that too. And that's why we've built the Refinery. That's why we built Free Radical Network. That's why the Party of Choice talks about these things to people anywhere, any audience they can get in front of, because we need a solution, a way forward, something that we can do. If there's a problem that's too big for me to solve, I'm just going to kick back and do my thing and not worry about the rest of y'all. I'm going to take care of me, and you go do you, and forget what happens to you. That's not how I want to live, and that's not how I think any of us want to live. We want to make things better. We want to improve things. We want to get solutions and find ways to beat this liberal drumbeat, this change in culture before our eyes. But too often we just stop at, oh, woe is us, it's so miserable. And that is fatal to us. I cannot stress it enough. Articles like that are fatal to us.
I love Ace of Spades. It's one of the reasons that I'm as conservative as I am. It's one of the reasons why I'm in this, because a friend that I played Guild Wars with referred me to Ace of Spades. Been reading it pretty much daily for, gosh, it's got to be, I don't know, 7 years now. And I have to say that one of the things that I don't know if it was directly from Ace that it came from, but one of the things I just hate the most in the comment section over at Ace of Spades is the sweet meteor of death people. I hate it so much. I hate reading, just keep on praying for that sweet meteor of death to come. It's like, come on, guys, resigning to have already lost. It's not helpful. It's just. It's very depressing is what it is.
I actually watched Tomorrowland this last week, and I was wishing for the sweet meteor of sweet death. Just so you know, I guess that's not applicable. Sorry.
That makes sense. And in that case, it's an understandable complaint, and everybody needs to read.
I know, but the problem is
no. One second. Everybody needs to go and read.
Theater screaming for it.
Everybody needs to go and read Andy's article on Tomorrowland, because it was awesome. And as I was reading it, I was imagining, because it features the burning of Mickey, or I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of torture for Mickey Mouse. And reading it, it was like, oh my God, this is the perfect time for Mickey Mouse to start spewing one of those John Galt long soliloquies before he perishes at the hands of occultist Donald. But I digress. It's a good read, and you should check it out. Look at me. I just derailed my own train of thought. I want to throw it to Andy, because something that is relevant to the actual story and not Tomorrowland. But the article talks about Clinton scandals, and oh my God, how is it that nothing is going, nothing seems to be gaining any traction. Andy, you wanted to talk about something that came up today, briefly.
Yeah. Well, first of all, a little good news. Let's keep in mind the opinion polls have Hillary way in the negatives on trustworthiness, and we say, well, that doesn't matter. It's not moving the needle enough on whether she'll get elected. It isn't until she has a solid opponent. One opponent whose character can be measured against hers. Right now, people are only going to vote Democrat. They see the D, and that's what they're going to support. The character issues are going to matter a lot more as we get closer. The question is, can we make that matter, or are we going to let these stories die? Real quick, in the Clinton Foundation, just another story. We hear so many, and I don't really care as much about the story as what we do with it. The story is that it has now come out that a bunch of countries, 20, that were donating to the Clinton Foundation. Also, Hillary herself, her department, okayed defense contracts, armed weapons sales to these countries. Now, these countries were getting weapons sales under Bush. However, she nearly doubled the amount of weapons sales, billions and billions, $165 billion worth of weapons sales to these countries, many of which have terrible human rights records. Okay, so here she's getting money to her foundation and facilitating greatly increased weapons sales. And oh, gee, by the way, the people selling the weapons also made donations to her foundation. In other words, she's raking in the money. I know a lot of us basically think, well, so what? Nothing seems to stick. I don't think it's sticking because as much as it shouldn't. I think it's our fault. I don't think we're good enough on our messaging. I don't think we're quick. And so what I want to give is just a few quick things that we can say to help people understand what's going on here. See, George Stephanopoulos used the number one defense of all this. He basically said it's for charity. You know, in his apology, where he basically said, oh, I gave these things, but it was to help fight AIDS and to fight poverty and all this kind of stuff. Okay, let's get rid of this right now. Tell your friends. Tell people you know. The Clinton Foundation is not a charity, okay? Mother Teresa was a charity. And let me give you a few quick points. Number one, Mother Teresa did not pocket 90% of the money coming in. Okay? Number two, Mother Teresa also never rewarded donations with greatly increased weapons contracts. I'm pretty sure of that. Okay? Number three, Mother Teresa also never received donations from press leaders who were going to be reporting on her presidential campaign. All right? This is crazy. Compare the Clinton Foundation to Mother Teresa. Everybody relates and understands Mother Teresa. And lead in and just say, look, yeah, rocket launchers. Mother Teresa never pocketed 90%. These people who, if these donors really intended to help with these efforts, they would have found a Mother Teresa. There are plenty of them. Rather than giving to a foundation using 90% of the money for overhead. My gosh, folks, if that's overhead, then the Superdome is the roof on my house. Okay?
No, my. Now, this tells me one thing, and I'll let you get in just a second.
Yeah, please.
We need to, our candidate needs to have known Mother Teresa, so that way when the eventual presidential debate comes up, we can have him say, I knew Mother Teresa, I served with Mother Teresa,
Yeah.
and you, Hillary Clinton, are no Mother Teresa. We need that moment.
Well, I'll tell you what. Mother Hillary is not Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa didn't pocket 90% of the money that came in. And by the way, not all the donors, but the people who were connected to the Clintons who were donating, they knew full well that money is going into their pockets and toward her campaign. That's why they're sending the money into that. And my last thing that I want people to understand is this. Even mob bosses have legitimate fronts. Hey, I'm a legitimate businessman. Okay? When you put when only 10% of the money goes to the charity, that's a front. Okay?
Hey, I'm a legitimate businessman.
I'm a legitimate businessman. Hey, I'm running a charity here. Okay, you know, I can't do East Coast, sorry. But this is the way we got to start talking to our friends. Compare Mother Hillary to Mother Teresa. Okay? Mother Teresa didn't pocket 90%, didn't help people get greatly, you know, she didn't do any of these things, okay? When you pocket 90%, that 10% is only a front to make people not look at the 90.
I like those points. I think that could be really effective. Yeah, my problem with the George Snuffleupagus thing wasn't that he lied about donating to them. That happens all the time. People donate, people don't disclose. But he worked for the Clintons. He worked closely with them. He knew how corrupt they were. He knew they were into arms deals. He knew about Bill's exploits. I mean, he knew that none of the money was going to charity, and he still chose to give the money to them. It's not like he didn't know that none of it was actually going to go to AIDS. Like Andy said, he could have given it to Mother Teresa or a real charity. He gave it to them solely for the purpose of access and favor and paying their exorbitant salaries and their living expenses, and he knew that full well going in. It's not like a regular voter or regular person going in and saying, oh, Bill and Hillary Clinton, they probably have a lot of influence. I'm sure they know good people, and they could really use this money in good ways. He knew beyond a shadow of a doubt how corrupt they are, and that none of the money was going to go to any sort of charity. And he still gave it to them, and that's my problem with him.
I think that the Clinton Foundation needs to basically say, look, we're going to move our headquarters to France, and the 10% of the money that we don't use, we will give to the poor.
Awesome.
The
Awesome.
money we were going to throw out, or actually the money we were going to throw out, that will go to the poor because we care.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Great connector there, Andy. Speaking of connecting stories to each other, back to the zeitgeist, the culture that was so incredibly alien in that article from National Review by Quinn Hillier. Fishy, I'm sure Game of Thrones falls under that category of an alien culture because, oh my God, it's Game of Thrones and there's nudity and sex and terrible, bad, nasty things on it.
I didn't want to belabor this point, but last week on Game of Thrones, on this show, we talked about Game of Thrones, about the last week's episode of Game of Thrones, in which last week one of the beloved characters, Sansa Stark, was raped. I'm not going to spoil her any more than that, and I'm not really spoiling because it's all over the internet. You have to consciously not look for it to be able to be free of this. I haven't seen the episode. I didn't really. I can't get to it yet, but I will eventually see it. I've read all the books. The scene's not in the books. It's a different scene, a different character in the book, and it's far worse than what was portrayed on television. And in talking about this video that we did today, that we released today, of that conversation last week, it struck me that the social justice warriors had this completely backwards, that there are things that they missed, and JD verified that there was no mention of this running around the internet in the comparisons that we were making. But I saw so much outrage and so much frustration, and I guess people were saying left and right they were quitting the show, right, over this scene. And the line that I used to describe that was, with the clockwork regularity one comes to expect of the Social Justice League, cries of enough and rape culture flooded my Twitter feeds, and articles detailing how this was the final straw for many viewers flew past as quickly as the typewriter monkeys could craft them. I'm rather fond of that line. So I had put this together today and released this on Free Radical Network. Here's my 2 points really quickly that I wanted to make. In the first case, all these people are outraged over white, rich privilege. The victim in this particular case that sent everybody over the edge was a rich, white, privileged girl in the rich white community, ruling community of Westeros. Okay. Meanwhile, in episode after episode, women of color have been being raped from the very first season, and nobody batted an eye. Okay, yeah, it might have been, oh yeah, this is a very nudity-based show. It's lots of sex and violence and whatever, but not to this degree. There was not this kind of reaction. And so apparently the people in Westeros, color didn't matter as much until it was a rich, white, privileged girl who got raped. And so my question is, don't fictional Black lives matter? Just the same way that in the West, a rape case, a fictional rape case, as Nero, Milo Yiannopoulos pointed out, in Rolling Stone gets less ire than a fictional rape case in Game of Thrones. But these particular people you don't see them agitating on behalf of real rape victims of color, like people who are the Nigerian girls from Boko Haram, or the Yazidis, or the Kurds. So they've totally missed their opportunity, and they have exposed themselves as really white, rich, privilege centric here. And then the obvious, the fictional outrage, of course, is that they've gone bug nutty over this fictional rape that is off screen, that the actress was not raped, this didn't actually happen, but they've left out of their social justice equation fighting and taking on ISIS, Boko Haram, supporting policies and actions other than hashtag campaigns that would actually accomplish something in dealing with these people. Again, very fiction-centric, and I thought that was because obviously when you have real rape victims, there are real things that you have to actually do about rape, and that's too hard. So it's easier to just post an article saying, I'm not watching that show anymore because it's rapey. So hopefully people will check that out and share that around, because I don't know that perspective has really been out there long enough or at all. And if social justice warriors are going to get their knickers in a twist about something, knickers, by the way, in a twist about something, we might as well tell them they didn't go far enough.
Yeah, and I thought that the hashtag check your nonfiction privilege was an apt and fun one. And that's the thing, is that even there isn't even really a social media campaign by the social justice warriors. They aren't even consistent there. They have a big problem when Sansa Stark gets fake raped on a fake show that's fake, but they are not tweeting in anger and righteous anger and indignation to any real extent, certainly not to the extent that they're doing it over Sansa Stark, about the girls who have been kidnapped and raped by Boko Haram or the rest of radical Islam. I mean, ISIS, we hear every day that they're kidnapping people and raping children and happy about it, proud of it. And where are you, social justice warriors? And it's just not happening. I again, since we did cover this last week, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fishy.
No, just people looking for a way to poke holes in the Social Justice League, as it were. This is another option to do that and to point out. And an opening, by the way, to talk about national security, to talk about terrorism, to talk about the bad things that happen to people, and what happens when society breaks down and government breaks down, when laws don't matter. We talked about that last week, about how difficult the lives of people in Game of Thrones are, because there's just whoever's in power gets to make the rules, and that's the way it goes. That is happening on this planet, and these people are ignoring it, and it's a good conversation opener to talk to people about real issues that are happening right now, and that social justice warriors could not be less interested in.
Absolutely, and that's a really great conversation starter if you think about it, because chances are you know somebody who is upset about Sansa Stark. Chances are you know somebody who is really in an uproar over the off-screen fake rape of a fictional character on TV. It's very likely that you know that person, and you could say, yeah, you know what, that was really horrible and disgusting. But you know what else is really horrible and disgusting is the fact that we're talking about thousands and thousands of women each day being raped by murderous bastards in the Middle East and Africa. Probably more important than Sansa Stark. And going from something that is really, really depressing and important, like people who are being murdered and raped by Boko Haram and ISIS, I think it's about time that we shift into the sort of bright and airy end. We like to leave you guys with a with sort of the nice mint on the pillow kind of treatment that you get at hotels. We don't want to leave you with the sort of garlicky taste of all of these really important and heavy, certainly in the case of Boko Haram and ISIS issues. So we want to get to our final story of the week, and it is back to Hillary, because it's awesome that we always get to do this, because Hillary gives us ample opportunity to do this, and this time it has something to do with pantsuit shirts. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. Okay, so one of the fun things about political season is swag, correct? So you can always find some interesting things. There was some really stupid messaging, for instance, by the GOP this week on Memorial Day. They were talking about selling a W mug on Memorial Day, and yeah, I'm just going to gloss over that. If you want to see it, go to the GOP store or go look at the GOP Twitter feed.
It wasn't a miss me yet, was it? Please tell me it wasn't.
No.
Okay,
Have
good.
coffee on Memorial Day with a real leader, something like that. So it was stupid. We are a bipartisan, smack administering show here. When the right does something stupid, we're going to call them out on it. But swag is swag and funny. I mean, Rand Paul had a contest in his swag store for different design T-shirts people made. One of them that I particularly voted for said, the NSA knows I bought this T-shirt, or something like that, which was really clever, because you order it online, right? So the NSA has your data. But in the Hillary store, there is a T-shirt decorated to look like a pantsuit. I don't know if you have that image that you can grab, but it is funny. And it also, by the way, comes in red in the image, not blue. So here we have yet again another, mixed message from Hillary: red pantsuits and whatever. And an embroidered pillow, by the way, an embroidered pillow that says a woman's place is in the White House or something like that. Yeah, so Grandma got pillows. Yes. There is the Hillary.
Yeah, there's the Hillary. I'm sorry, because I have to speak in order for it to work and stuff, so people can see it. But there's the great pantsuit shirt, complete with the Hillary campaign logo on the lapel there, just so that you're, and the tacky necklace that she always wears. So you're all set in terms of ridiculously obnoxious campaign-based clothing. With Hillary Clinton. I'm looking for the pillow right now.
One of the tweets that I had, it was actually in there side by side with the pantsuit, but it's evidently mockable, obviously. So you had the opportunity to make a lot of fun of this. But there are some others. This started a hashtag, Hillary Store Items, and you can imagine how much fun conservatives had with that. One of them was bimbo repellent, and that comes from the Morning Spew. That was great. Let's see. You also had, what are some of the other ones? From Jackie KPGH, you had advanced fighter jets, which harkens back to the story that Andy and Corey were talking about. From Breaking GNUS, Breaking News, support hose, but with a different spelling of hose, if you know what I mean. Let's see, Andrew P. Courier, an electromagnet to wipe servers with.
There's the pillow right there for you. A woman's place is in the White House.
Yes.
All right, that's enough of that now. Sorry, please continue.
There's one more that I want to make sure that you have, but I'm going to go on to other ones first. President_alien said Mao jackets. That's a big one. Let's see. From Gamergis is uranium ore stock. Along the same lines, Cranky Gordon, a uranium mine. Let's see, a T-shirt that says "Money, get money out of politics." I love this one. It's cute. Jackie KPGH again says this one, and it is the whole slogan goes. Oh, dang it! It's loading. Okay, 1 second. Sorry. Get money out of politics T-shirt with Hillary logo, free with $2,000 contribution. That's great. Another one from D Bright 21, a White House China set. If anybody knows what I'm talking about there, a lot of stuff that went missing when the Clintons moved out. AIRES, AIRESS, has these items: national security, parentheses, sale with 50% off coupon. Integrity, unused, like new. Bible, no marked pages, mint condition. That was lovely.
I don't get that one. I thought that her Bible has lots of passages scribbled out. Just the ones that she doesn't like, because we need to change the way that we view
good
these.
Point. Good point. That one might not have worked. The one that you've got up on the screen, exterior paint, environmentally friendly, easy care exterior surface gloss paint with blood stain protection. And there's a picture of the column at the consulate in Benghazi with the blood marks. And yeah, almost too soon for that one. But wow.
Hopefully everybody can see that.
Let's see. Also, from Histreader, Bosnian sniper Halloween costume. For those who remember her little jaunt, dodging sniper fire. And a copy of, from AG_Texas, The Blame Game. So all those were items sold, according to this hashtag, should be sold in the Hillary store. One I think they forgot, though, and it was bugging me all day. I didn't tweet it, but I should have, was W keys for keyboards. I don't know how many people remember, but yeah, all of the W's were missing from all of the keyboards in the White House when President Bush took office. So yeah, they would probably have a backlog, a big supply of those. They would not be on back order. Just saying. So yeah, if you enjoy that, jump on the Hillary Store Items hashtag and contribute. That seems like a lot of ground that we didn't cover there that needs to be covered, and it lends that, Hillary always lends herself to mockery, but this is just delicious. There's endless possibilities.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see. I mean, all of these tweets are excellent, but as you said, there's so much more that could be done. I can't wait to check out that hashtag later. Sorry,
and the good thing is we will have all of those into the full episode. They will all be linked down there. If people want to retweet them, that's always fun. That way it keeps them in the circulation. Or just check out the hashtag and find them yourself and retweet them from there.
All right, yeah, absolutely, and we should. And with that, on that note, I think that I'm going to do my backup host duties and close the show. Thank everybody for hanging out with us in the chat room. Every Tuesday night, 9:45, a little later sometimes, especially when we've got backup hosts hosting. Be sure to check out therefineryshow.com for all of our stuff. We've got all of our various podcast outlets on therefineryshow.com. Contact us, about us, subscribe to the podcast, all sorts of great stuff. Feed readers, Leslie really did a great job. You can find us on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on iTunes, and you can go to vigilantliberty.us for our podcast on Spreaker, every Thursday night, generally up, and we thank Taylor Millard and all of the guys over there at Vigilant Liberty Radio for hooking us up with that podcast every week. And also, we put out clips of the show every single day. Generally, we have a lot of clips that we clip out from the show. So we know everybody can't have the sort of 2 hours, or I'm sorry, hour and a half to block out to listen to a podcast or watch the whole show. So we try to, Fishy and I try to, and it's mostly Fishy, try to block out these clips and put them up on YouTube for you guys to watch. And we love it to see when these clips get shared, and hopefully start some good discussions and get some good comments there. We actually had a lot of good comments in the past couple of days on our last two videos, so that was excellent. And we just love talking with you guys. So if you have a topic that you want to talk about want us to talk about on the Refinery, feel free to message us over on our page on FRN on Facebook, or over in the Conservative Union. Actually, you can tag us on anything, comment on any of our videos, and we will read them, because we read all of that stuff and we love to see it. I think I hit all of the stuff. Next week, hopefully, we will have Leslie back. She'll be back from her hiatus, figure out where it was that she went.
Where she washed away to.
Yes. Hopefully, she doesn't have too much damage dealing with down there in Texas, and we're super glad that you were able to that you weren't swimming this episode, Fishy. So hopefully we'll have Leslie back next week, and I think that's it. So thanks everybody for listening, and can't wait to see you guys in the chat room next week. Thanks, and have a great night.